Hi, very good morning to you. I just wanted to bring a few facts to you guys so that you're in a better position to make your decisions on what you want to do with your future plans. There are some things that have been said in social media and on other platforms about a particular statement that was made at Davos, that one, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy by 2030, was fact checked by Reuters. And this is just a clip out of their published article relating to that, and I'll just read it out to you. The World Economic Forum does not have a stated goal to remove everybody's private property by 2030, as addressed in previous Reuters fact check. These claims likely originated from the World Economic Forum's social media video from 2016 that stated 8 predictions. There is an interesting word here. It's a prediction, and so we know what we should do when people make predictions, because they haven't got crystal balls, they don't know exactly what's going on, and therefore it's a prediction which could be possible and maybe not be possible. So about the world in 2030, including you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. What you want, you'll rent, and what you and it will likely be delivered by drone. So that was the statement that was made by the Danish politician Aid Orkin, who wrote the prediction in question. Said it was not utopia dream of the future, but a scenario showing where we could be heading for the better or for the worst. So if you were like me when you heard people talking about this, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, you would have been instantly infuriated by that statement. And of course, if that would have been a statement of plan, then I think all of us would have been as a lot of us are, because a lot of us do believe that was the statement and intended direction of things, would have been very unhappy. In a writing update, she clarified that the piece aimed to start a discussion about the pros and cons of the current technology development when we are dealing with the future. It is not enough to work with reports. We should start discussions in many new ways. This is the intention with this piece. So trying to clarify again that it was a prediction. In the past, false claims about the World Economic Forum have been conflated with conspiracy theorists about the United Nations Agenda 2030 framework, which is a set of sustainable development goals devised in 2015 at the United Nations General Assembly. They are freely available on government websites and outline objectives like ending poverty, which includes goal-making property ownership available to all. So, that's what the Reuters found about the facts about that video that came out in 2016, which most people took the wrong way, clearly. And of course, if you are trying to raise it on a social media platform, you're one of these people that are going to jump on the bandwagon and miss out the fact that they are stating that this is a prediction just to get extra subscribers. Then that's it. It's very hard to read in between the facts, as opposed to where you should be thinking, so to speak. But I've got to say this: I'd like to know what your views are on those predictions made by the World Economic Forum and that politician down in the comments. But I'll give you my opinion on it. It certainly looks like those predictions are leading to some truth in some form of fashion, and I can almost understand, if they were just predictions, why they might have been suggested, as that's where we could be in 2030. Let's face it, there are just now a handful of very rich billionaires in the world which own a lot more than what they should really, because it's just going funnel. All this money is just getting funneled into just a few pockets as they buy up more and more huge companies and add them to the portfolios. There is definitely a cornering of the market in some industries. You look at who owns Nestle's, they own hundreds of other companies, all big companies which you will have seen on the high streets or seen on the internet. I mean, even Amazon, where they're expanding now into all sorts of other arenas, and using the same model that they used to start off with. And if you go back into the beginning days of Bezos' empire, you'll see that he started off with just books, and he was selling books at prices like high street shops couldn't compete with, and eventually cornered the market. And that's how he earned his beginning money, and then come up with the idea of removing shops entirely and just having an online store. And of course, we've been victims of our own success. We have brought from these online platforms, and knowingly and doing so put shops out of business. So when I look at the future, it does look like those predictions could come true, even if they are predictions. It does look that way. And if you look at the world at this present time, you'll see it is definitely gearing up to be more thick-skinned when it comes down to creating jobs. Let's face it, here in the UK, 51% or more of the population are on benefits of some sorts. That's not a good figure, and that figure comes from a politician. It's not just something I've created. That is an actual figure that comes from a politician. 51% of the UK's inhabitants are on benefits, and that's a failure of government. And we know why. Governments have failed over the last 15 years to invest in new businesses, and when you decline to invest in root businesses, obviously whatever is supported above the root obviously is going to wither and die away. And obviously in their short-sightedness, they thought it'd be a good idea not to invest in new businesses, and as a result we are here where we are now. We've stuck with just the same old companies which a few old people own, and they're billionaires, only funneling more and more money into their own pockets. We know there's a great deal of corruption at this point in time, and if we look at the history, it's corruption that brought down all the other empires. The Roman Empire was brought down by having too many politicalised people in the system that was filtering out the money that was meant to go on other great schemes of things but didn't, and he ended up none of these schemes coming off, but the money getting wickled away into politicians' pockets. And we're seeing the exact same thing today. Just look at the crisis with regards to the recent pandemic. How many politicians here in the UK, as well as the rest of the world, had a company or involved interest in a company that delivered PPE. I don't need to tell you names or who they were. You can find this out, and that sort of thing shouldn't be allowed to happen. Yeah, it does, and it's supported. And in this day and age, we see the taxpayers' money from, it doesn't matter where you are in this world, the taxpayers' money getting funneled into schemes such as reducing carbon, supporting wars, not forthcoming about the truth about pandemics, things like that. And of course, you can see that those predictions that was made from Davos out of that video from 2016 start to look true, don't they? And let's face it, you hear about these jobs going by the 50,000 here, 20,000 there, another 800 layoffs I heard of from a company recently. And when do you ever hear these jobs being created, new jobs like that? You just don't. So if you look at the grand scheme of things, things are in decline, and the workforce is expanding, or the available workforce is expanding, and that means with any what's the word I'm looking for? Any commodity, when things are in an abundance, the commodity price drops on that object, and that's your work labour force salary. So more people will be on, bare minimum or basic wage in the future. And of course, it is very difficult to run a household on that salary in this day and age with the cost of living. So, when you look at the prediction from that angle, where people will own nothing and they'll be happy, well, I don't think that they'll be happy at all. I think that that's the failing point of that statement, because I've never seen anybody happy that own nothing. Even if it is a prediction, the prediction is, or appears to be, in line with the reality of the coming future, doesn't it? When you look at things from those perspectives. It's not just war, big pharma that are making, a pounce on public taxpayers' money around the world. It's this carbon credits, carbon taxes that are going to be coming soon, and the world is gearing up for this. And you're going to be very shortly faced with a database of what you've purchased over the month, and if you've overstretched your carbon limit, then there's going to be a big, even though you've got the money, you're not going to be allowed to purchase what you want. So if you've brought T-bone steaks twice already, then you're not going to be allowed to have them a little bit further down the month, because you've already exerted your carbon tax on those objects already. And they're going to present this to those people that go along with it. And at first it's not going to be too painful, but then further down the line, once they've introduced the idea to you, they've got used to the temperature of the idea, they're going to then increase that temperature, and of course it will just do what everything else has done for us, which is take further coins out of our pockets, and eventually we're going to be owning nothing. And even if we had the will to own something, we won't be able to get it, because simply we won't have the funds to do it. I'd like to make a prediction of my own. I don't mind if you guys leave your comments on these thoughts. So first of all, I want to say this. If jobs don't start coming into line with the people that are out of work, then these matters are going to get worse for a lot more people. And if the governments don't start cutting back on rules and regulations, things are going to not improve at all. What I mean by that, well, if you're going to keep pushing more taxes on people in stealth manners, I'll just explain what I mean by that. Over here in the UK, we're starting to have these clean emission zones pop up. So if you drive into them, just for the fact you own a car that is not probably brand new, you drive a car through these and they are seen on the high end of emission producing, you'll be taxed for that, or you'll be asked to pay a small charge fee to drive through those regions. Now, you might have to work in one of these regions every day, so not only are you paying your tax, your national insurance, you're also paying now this commission charge. If things like that increase, it's only going to take more money out of the people's pockets who are already being pushed to the breadline already. And if energy companies don't drop their costs, then they are going to make more companies go bankrupt, because they're going to be less able to compete in the global markets because of the energy costs are high, and therefore their manufacturing costs are high. And you've already started to see this, and I know this here in the UK, in the United States, Canada, rest of the world, Europe especially. If you go into the shop, start comparing the prices from a year ago on certain products like milk, cheese, butter, bread, the daily essentials, you'll know that they've doubled, if not tripled in price in just 12 months. And that is because the energy costs went up. So it drove up the cost to produce these things by that factor. So unless something's done about that, the energy costs, then people are going to find that they've got less money in their pockets. I do like to spread my my range when I'm looking at different various things. I like to see what really goes on grassroots levels. And I've been watching documentaries about Poverty Britain. And I know I'm talking about Britain at the moment, but if you think that this doesn't apply to other countries, then you're wrong. More and more people are turning up to food banks, and food banks are running out of money right now. And, I'm not going to talk about the fact that we've got people that shouldn't be going to food banks that are claiming they're poverty on the poverty line and need them, but we do, and that's the reality of the matter. You will always get people that want 2 handfuls as opposed to the person that's happy with just 1 handful. That's just life. But unless there is more for people on the breadline out of work, and those benefits come up to line with the standard wage of living, then we are going to see further poverty, which probably will lead to an increase in crime. People, in my view, right now are angry, and they have less patience than ever because of the added tensions that are put on them, just trying to keep their household afloat back home. And then when they come out their houses for whatever reasons in the morning, go to work, take the kids to school, they're carrying that tension with them, and it's like a short fuse. It doesn't take a lot to, you've seen it yourself, create road rage. People are more furious at this point in time because of the pressures of life that are being put on them. And unless there are alleviations, these things are not going to get any better. I would definitely recommend the abolition of this reducing carbon to zero by, is it 2050 now they've put it back to? I don't know. 2030 it was, but now I know that they've put it back. It's a policy that is going to bankrupt companies. Not only have the companies had to deal with the increase in energy to produce their stuff, they've also been hit with carbon taxes as well on top of that. Again, if you're a company owner, you're probably thinking at this point, well, there's no point because I've got to pay the rent, the rates, the tax, and then I've also got to pay carbon tax, and then I've got to pay the extra on the energy costs. It just isn't worth it anymore. I'm shutting shop, and I'm going to let these people go that have worked for me for probably 20-30 years. This is a real case scenario, guys. This is happening. And again, the less people that are in work, the less people are able to obtain the money to participate in a monetary system. And then when you add together the fact that birth rates are on the increase, the population is expanding, more people are coming into the market that need a job, and what we're seeing right now is even people that are leaving university haven't got a chance of getting the job that they went to study to do so originally. Only fact is they've left college or university with thousands of pounds worth of debt, so already starting way further behind than a lot of other people that never took that route. Now, as a parent, we'd always love our children, wouldn't we, to go to university, get a degree, or a master's in a certain subject and do well. Well, we can do the best we can as parents, but we can't create the jobs at the end of the we can help our students, our children, get those educations and get those exam results and those qualifications, but we can't do anything further than that point. We can't force them to get a job, or we can't give them the job afterwards. So we're stuck at the moment going forward. And then when you add in, the fact that we are increasing technological advancement, then okay, that goes against the need to increase the population. That goes against the need for a lot of other things as well. So, when you look at those predictions made by the World Economic Forum that we mentioned at the beginning of this video, it does certainly look that those predictions are on line only. Like I say, nobody will be happy with nothing. I think before we get to that point, as we are seeing now, a frustration, we will see more people lose it when they lose everything. And I listen to a lot of people online for various different reasons. Some of them are economic experts, some of them are scientific experts. But I'll cut to the chase here. I'm just going to say, if things continue getting like this, then some of the predictions that I've made already, by leaving the city, because it's not sustainable. You can't grow enough food in a city or even a small village to sustain yourself. You need your own land. And if you've got the affordability to do that, maybe you've got a property that you've paid for, or you own, or there's enough equity in that property you could sell and get yourself a little homestead somewhere, then I would suggest you do it and just duck out of the system for a bit to see how things go. You can still keep your toe in the water. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you having a solar array system, some batteries, a diesel generator just as a backup, and keeping some form of internet going on a Starlink system or something like that. Out in the woods somewhere, or out in the wilderness somewhere, your own plot of land where you can grow your own food, and you can keep yourselves warm by burning wood and cooking on your log burner or whatever. I'm just saying this, that right now what drove us to the cities 30-40 years ago is not there anymore. The amenities are there, but they're so unaffordable. The jobs aren't there, so you're going to struggle. Maybe have to go on benefits of some form of sorts, and they're not sustainable. So you might have a small footprint of a garden or a postage stamp of a garden, but you're not going to be able to sustain yourself with that amount of land. You need a lot more. So that's my thoughts on this. I'm deadly interested in what your thoughts are. Tomorrow I'm going to do the Earth Alpha at a glance. We've also got some data to process, and Kendall has sent his muon data as well, so we'll add that to the report tomorrow. So please come back tomorrow if you're interested in just the science part of these things. But these are the things today, what we've talked about, that affect all of us, and that are going to continue to affect all of us. And I'll say what I usually do. There is a link down there if you want to help to support what we do at our observatory and keep discussions like this going. Then please feel free. It only requires a few people to help out, and those few people are few and far between these days. Sadly, is the case, but there are those that understand the situation and understand the need for such an observatory and a need for such discussions that we've got going on right here. So please, I read all the comments, and I do sometimes from now to now reply to some of them. I'll try and do my best today to reply to most of them. So again, there's a link down there if you want to help support us. So what I usually do. As always, bye for now.